Hello, family. Hello, everyone. Welcome, 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 welcome to everyone. My name is Naledi Mfoloe, and I am reporting live in Johannesburg, South Africa. It is currently 9 p.m. here, so it's evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Please let me know where you're watching us from. Let me know which state you're watching us from, which continent, which country. Please comment in the comment section. And while you're at it, please don't forget to download the African Diaspora News app channel. On the Google Play and on Apple Play as well, where you will get exclusive content and exclusive news. And yeah, please let me know where you're watching me from. And for everyone that's just joined, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today's topic is quite a sensitive one. It's quite sad that we constantly find ourselves in the cycle of abuse as Black people, yeah, it is quite sad. Someone just said St. Petersburg, Florida. Hey, what's up, Florida? Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Shout out. Welcome, everyone. Now, family, like I said, today's topic is quite a sensitive one, and I do need everyone to slow down with me tonight. And not because the story is confusing, but because it is heavy. It is a heavy story, and I believe it's stories like this that don't just sit in our minds, but they sit in our chest. And today's conversation, it really reminded me that this is why platforms like ADNC exist. This is why we need Black voices. This is why we need people to stand up and speak. Um, um, and one. So this is a real court case, right? That is involving young Black women. Real allegations of exploitation and a justice system that quite often refuses to treat Black suffering as something that needs extra proof before it's believed. So if at any point, you need to step away to protect your spirit, I do understand, but I do want to also say that this conversation will still be here. And with that being said, I want us to start with facts, right? Let's start at the beginning, because I do think that fact matters. So the accused, Louis Latachan, who is a white farmer in South Africa. His trial resumed this week in Makanda High Court, and he is basically facing multiple charges, including human trafficking, sexual assault, and assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. Now, according to the testimony presented in court, which is that there has been an over period of 3 years that at least 6 young Black women were allegedly recruited to his farm under the false promise of legitimate employment, specifically as au pairs for his children. Now, I do want us to emphasize on the period of 3 years, because this clearly tells us something here, that it isn't a mistake. It isn't something that happened by chance. It was intentional. Something doesn't happen over a period of 3 years continuously and the person says it was a mistake. It is not a mistake. It is intentional. You know what you're doing. These encounters were not random. As much as he would love to say that they were random, they were not random. And that's just the reality of things. And what saddens me is that these were job offers. as we know in South Africa, a lot of young people don't have jobs, and I do believe that these young girls were in a vulnerable state, wanting to get employment, and only to fall into a trap, a disgusting trap of a grown ass man who saw a window to take advantage of young black women, and I want us to also pause on the word au pair for a minute. I want us to unbreak it a bit, because words carry power. We know that. And an au pair is meant to represent safety. They're meant to represent caregiving, because they caregivers, right? But according to the woman's testimonies, once they arrived at this remote farm, the realities were very different. They were allegedly isolated. They were cut off from normal support systems. And according to the state, they were subjected to ongoing sexual abuse. Now, when one woman was no longer wanted, what he would then do, that he would then tell them to leave, and another person was brought into it. That pattern matters. That pattern tells you exactly why he did it. He was trying to take advantage of all the women that were vulnerable. Because these patterns tell us this, right? That it was not confusion. It was not chaos. It was intentional. Now, what I really find absolutely disgusting is that during the investigation, right, so authorities reportedly found items in the accused vehicle and home. These items were like things like condoms, sex toys, lubricants, and that shows you that this was premeditated and not a coincidence, family. It really does. And I do want to be clear, and I also want to be responsible a bit here. I will not sensationalize this, but the court heard that items related to sexual activity were found, and the state argues that this supports their case that what was happening on that farm was planned and not spontaneous. And this matters because it directly challenges the accused version of events, which he claims that everything was consensual and initiated by the women themselves. That's what he said. And this is where my stomach turns, because in court, this man claimed that the women were happy to be intimate with him, that they initiated contact, that some of them even kissed him upon arrival. And this is one of the oldest narratives in the book, family. It really is. It is a story we've all heard across centuries, across continents, across systems of power, where Black women are framed as willing participants in their own exploitation. It reminds me of the times of Sarah Bartman, and I need us to be very clear tonight, family, that consent cannot exist where freedom is compromised, and let's talk honestly about power, because here we have a white landowner in rural South Africa who has land, who has mobility, who has money, who has credibility, and has institutional protection. And then on the other hand, we have a young Black woman who's possibly unemployed, possibly far from home, and possibly desperate for work, is then pushed into that environment. That is not equal dynamic. It isn't. And it's quite sad because the justice system often struggles to acknowledge that coercion does not always look like chains. Sometimes it looks like, where will I go if I leave here? You don't know anyone out here. You need this job. And another truth I believe we need to talk about is the trauma that comes with this. Because not everyone fights. Not everyone screams, not everyone runs, no, not everyone reports. Some people comply in order to survive, because compliance is not consent. Silence is not agreement, and survival is not desire. And Black women's trauma responses are often misread or often weaponized against them. And one of the most heartbreaking aspects of this case is that one of the women that were connected to this later died by suicide. Oof. And the court ruled that the evidence directly linking the accused to that decision was inadmissible. But I do want to be clear about this, and I also want to be very careful when I say this, that legal technicalities do not erase emotional truth. Pain does not need a courtroom stamp to be real. And Black women do not experience harm in isolation. It accumulates, it compounds, it follows them long after the abuse has ended. And this case it really isn't about Louis alone. It isn't about this one man, right? It is about a justice system that demands Black women to perform their pain perfectly in order to be believed. We've seen it time and time again. And honestly, South Africa cannot keep acting shocked, because this is not new. It isn't. It is a pattern. And it is historical. Like I said, remember the days of Sarah Batman. It has happened over the years, over the centuries. Across the continent, it's still happening. Across the diaspora, we see the same story repeated. Black women recruited for labor, promised opportunity, from farms to factories to domestic work. The bodies of Black women are always being treated as accessible and expendable. And this is why this conversation matters beyond one courtroom. Because justice is not just punishment after harm. Justice is not that. Justice is prevention. Justice is protection. Justice is believing women early, not after their lives fall apart or they commit suicide. Justice is systems that make exploitation impossible, not merely illegal on paper. Now, to the Black women watching tonight, you're not dramatic. You are not imagining things. Your instincts are not paranoia. They are intelligence shaped by history. You do not need to owe anyone politeness to danger. You do not owe silence to anyone's comfort. And I do believe that South Africa cannot heal while these Black girls are still being lured and isolated and disbelieved. We cannot keep asking victims to carry the burden of proof and the burden of dignity. We cannot. Now I want to hear you guys' thoughts. Let me check what you guys have to say. It is quite sad. It is quite sad to find ourselves in situations like this. I just feel and wish that the South African justice system would protect us more. Let's see. Please comment in the comments section. I want to hear what you guys think about this story. It is quite a gruesome one. It is quite a sad story. This man does await sentencing, so we do not know how many years he's going to be sentenced, but we do hope he goes to life imprisonment, because he deserves it. And no one should live. Da, 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 da. Please let me know what you think. I'm reading comments here. Still have, okay, someone here says, do these people still have you outnumbered? Uh, do these people still have your land? You outnumber them, take your land back. This is such a broad conversation. It's easier said than done, and I and understand where most people who are from Europe and America who say, you guys are outnumber them. Why do they still own the land? And unfortunately, the system has been built in a way that Black people are at the bottom of the barrel. That's why we're fighting this land appropriation act, and that's why we have people like Trump who say that there's white genocide, because we're trying to fight back and get the land back. But it isn't an easy fight, and unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that it won't happen overnight. But the fight is continuing, and we are fighting to get our land back. That's for sure. Yeah, we really are. We really are. Let me try and see more comments here. Someone says that consent cannot exist where power and survival are involved. Absolutely, it cannot, because you have power. So consent cannot exist, it cannot. Someone else also said here that the story, when will Black women stop having to prove their pain twice? I agree. It is an ongoing fight. It is an ongoing fight. As Black women, we constantly have to fight back and fight for our rights and fight to be seen. And it's unfortunate that that's how things are. Yeah. Someone says, has the president of Economic Freedom Fighter, Julius Malema, made a statement about this story? No, he hasn't. He hasn't made a statement, but I do think and believe that the EFF members from that region, it was Free State, have been fighting against this case as well. But no direct statement from Julius Malema as of yet. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, guys, for engaging in the story. Let's continue the comment section, the comments in the comment section. The conversation, like I said, does not end here. The conversation continues. We want to hear what you guys have to say. Let's continue to spread this story so that more people can hear about it. Thank you so much. Till we meet again, it is bye-bye for now. Good night.